Wow, 3 o'clock on the nose.
Oh,
Yeah, welcome to Sunday Live Chat.
hi.
And going around the world today, on the other side of the world, welcoming a super special guest, beyond words, Mr. Graeme Revell.
Hey, Kevin.
Welcome, sir. It's an absolute honor, I can't even say.
You too.
It's almost unbelievable because in some weird ways you've kind of been beyond the shadows for quite some time with your film career, but recently people have been just sort of saying how much they enjoyed your performance. It recently, the first two performances in what, 40 years?
Bit more than that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
with your son Robert
Yes.
at the VOD festival, which I must say, VOD, vinyl on demand, certainly knows how to organize a list. And also incredible support for many of the artists that come out of this genre. Graham, you were there appearing as S.P.K. and is it S.P.T.K. yet?
No, well, it's called Spectre. When we eventually get around to it, I'm
Okay,
develop
excellent.
I'm developing it now, but it's quite a complex development because it won't be just the usual.
And I guess you did two performances, one in Italy and one in Germany. How did
Yeah.
it feel to get back on the stage again and be presenting musical expression and some anti-vegetarianism, like father, like son.
Oh, that can be interpreted however you want. But I did have some young lady spit in my face because of it, which was exciting.
I can only imagine.
She
Well,
did ask me. She did ask me if she could first, and I said yes. I don't know why I said yes, but and then she did it. Quite shocking, really. But yeah, this these two shows were sort of my thank you tour, because both OEC in Italy and Vinyl on Demand in Germany, they've been super supporters of everybody for so long.
haven't they?
Yeah, and so I wanted to thank them, but also the fans really, because and as I said on stage, we wouldn't be here without the fans, would we, Kevin?
No, absolutely not. And it's so good to see the barrels back. This,
Yeah.
there's just nothing like the sound of them. But wouldn't you agree after all this time?
Yeah, it's fun. It was more fun when we could grind them and jackhammer them, but can't do that anymore. The fire departments, they,
Really,
they know we're coming, don't they?
limitations now.
Yeah, we had to do a whole AI um, fake concert in behind us, which was pretty nice actually.
Wow, I heard just.
There we are. That's that slide there. We're in a big factory and doing the whole thing.
I love the instruments too, instrumentation, and I've just heard everybody. Edward was there, and he said that he just absolutely loved it.
Yeah. It was probably not what you'd call a live show. It wasn't sort of heavy on the rhythm, apart from the old S.P.K things that I reconstructed. People probably know by now that I lost every single thing of S.P.K in the fires in Los Angeles this year, February, wasn't it?
I did not know that.
Oh, you didn't? My ex-wife Sanan, part of S.P.K, was the holder of the archive, and her house burned to the ground. So,
Oh, that is so sad. I'm so sorry to hear.
you know what? I don't care. I don't care at all. Um, but no, there's no photos, there's no music, there's no tapes, there's no nothing. So, in a way, it's
Wow.
wonderful ironic for
May-
a
Maybe
person
the
who wants to
community,
change all the time.
maybe the community can help out somehow by sharing some of their collections or something. I mean,
No,
that
that
was,
would be good. I mean,
yeah.
as I say, I'm not really that concerned because I'm only interested in the future anyway. But
I know that I just absolutely have to say I've always loved the way you think. I consider you almost like the king of this whole of the genre because it's really amazing is that when punk came along, probably 77, 78, it was a needed thing.
oh
But
yeah,
as soon as that started to wear down and you see the noise movement coming in, I almost saw that as for me, it was even more of a face slap of where musical society had reached. And but the thing is what I find interesting about so many stories with people is what made you leave New Zealand and go to Australia and think on the level to make a band of which you did?
Uh, New Zealand has only got 5 million people in it, so it's almost impossible to do anything edgy and have an audience. So even now, I could not do a gig in New Zealand. There wouldn't be enough people for even 100 people in the room. It's a little bit sad, really. But so the trajectory for a lot of creative New Zealanders is first Australia, then England, which is exactly the trajectory I followed. But I was very lucky to meet Neil Hill, his stage name. Neil Hill was his real name. But he was a punk fan, real Buzzcocks fan, and
Nice.
I was coming from that the German electronics thing. But fortunately, we made a lovely amalgam, and the way we went, you know. But you're right, you're right. The punk thing was really just rock and roll sped up and screamed, wasn't it? Whereas I think there was a bit more depth to the industrial. Maybe it's my
There's,
bias, but I feel that.
I what was how did you get the inspiration to say, okay, we're gonna approach things this way? Was it already embedded within somebody?
Must have been well, I borrowed my first synthesizer, the EMS-AKS, which came with a keyboard. But for some reason, I decided I wasn't interested in the keyboard part. So I did everything with it was a pin plug type of synthesizer, not chords. It was all done with pins on a matrix. And I just loved the noise that it produced and went from there. But at the same time, I was a sort of voracious reader right from the beginning. Um, and I encountered Deleuze and Guattari's Anti-Oedipus and then Thousand Plateaus, which was essentially the idea was of rupture, free flow, nomadism, and these things really spoke to me. So I guess when you say I'm the old head, I probably have always been I've always been the one that sort of provided the theory in a way of what we were doing. I don't think it would have changed anything we were doing because most people just do it for fun, but it's got a theory as well.
The impetus, though, of the choice of instruments and the style of production, and even your sense of recording, is I kind of always look back as S.P.K as one of the most frightening industrial bands.
Yeah, people did find it frightening. Because when you're doing it, you don't, do you? But I do realize that, you know, these recordings of mental patients just in absolute agony and pain, um, it's all frightening, really is. And then the soundscape around it, especially Lycanshire, I think probably people say that's a,
Right.
a bit of a classic, that one. Oh, flamethrower.
Oh, love it.
Yes.
Can't do that anymore.
No, you
How
cannot.
how much of a direct inspiration do you draw from your past working in the mental hospital as a nurse or assistant?
Uh, when I first went to meet Throbbing Gristle, I didn't know about them until I moved to Paris, actually, was where I first went to. So I wanted to work at La Borde, which was a very experimental mental institution in France. Quickly found out that I couldn't speak French well enough to be of any use to somebody who was, you know, echolalia and all that kind of stuff. So I was not of use. So I went to England and I just discovered, I think, in a French record store, Throbbing Gristle's first two annual reports. So I went to see Genesis, and Genesis, we sort of spoke past each other for about an hour. He was very interested in what I called star deviants, the Mansons of the world and the Crowleys and all that kind of stuff. And the answer to your question is I was very interested in the institutional violence perpetrated upon deviant people, oh, and including mental patients, of course. So, and that was the only conversation we ever had, ever. People assume there was quite a relationship, but there was none. And then they invited us to be on Industrial Records, and the rest is history. And I thank him forever for that.
You had already made some recordings before the meeting, though, in Australia, though, hadn't you?
Oh yes, these
Yeah.
the industrial one was a re-release. Yes.
Yeah. So you were already well directioned without being sort of, I mean, the discovery of industrial records had to have been, was it? See, I'm also interested in your arrival into the UK, into a very vibrant beginning of a scene, and
Mm.
what you encountered, how you saw it.
Well, it was very validating, that's for sure, because until then I'd thought I was the weirdo on the edge of the flat Earth that was about to fall off. The Earth is flat, by the way, Kevin, just in case you didn't know. And the so yeah, it was amazing. And then suddenly there was all these people that were very cool. And not that I really became part of the scene. I'm an extremely isolated person, so um but it was really nice to know they were there. And then I think we played with supported TG at Heaven, if I remember rightly.
Mm.
And got invited to be on that Some Bizarre Records collection, which I declined. Didn't want to be part of something like that, really. And it was great. It was really, I didn't realize how big it was already, and Germany especially.
Yeah, I guess in some ways, your initial exposure to the scene is either going to be something you've always looked for, or what the hell's this? But
Yeah.
I'll never forget like this compilation that came out. Hopefully you can see it.
Oh
The
yeah,
Elef-
yeah.
the
The,
Elephant Table album.
the
And
label.
I've spoken about this a lot on the live chats because I've been lucky enough to talk to quite a few of the Nocturnal Emissions, Bourbonnais Squawk, so on like this from the
Yeah.
scene at the time, which I was amazed that everybody gave their contact addresses inside, including you,
Ah,
Tom. I guess it's what is it here? Oh, the sun's in the way. Looks like Iberton House.
oh yeah, that was a squat. They,
Yeah.
they were all squats early on.
So when you went to the UK and you submersed yourself into this, how long? I mean, you were with a squat. You obviously weren't. You couldn't have taken the barrels or your equipment. Did you then sort of think about how am I going to start recording? And because you recorded your first album there and license try in the UK, didn't you?
First album, yes. No, Like a Try was back in Australia. Uh,
Already.
yeah, so um, we went back and forwards a little bit. The first album was recorded in a squat right by the Clapham railway line, and the when the trains went past, they somehow affected the electrics of the whole building.
Classic.
1930s British building style. It was probably wired into the rails. But you'd sometimes see flashes of flame, or not flame really, but light coming out of the wall sockets. And we were trying to record, and this would happen all the way through the recording. So we just said, "Fuck it, let's just leave it." And it was a great addition to the sound. And then we went back to Australia, and from the first record, which was, I suppose they call it power electronics now, but I decided to change to the percussion in live buildings, and that's the sort of basis of the Leichenschrei sound.
I think Leichenschrei is. I mean, I think there's a quote from Edward that I have here somewhere where it says that basically it should just stop there. The whole forward movement. But
Well, I certainly didn't want to do another one because I thought, well, no, I think it's going to be a bit repetitive if I do another one of those. So decided not.
yeah, there's just something magical about its intensity again, though. Of course, translating to corpse scream, it's certainly for me. It's always been amongst my compatriots and friends have always been our favorite S.P.K. Only just because of how frightening it is.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was interesting was we weren't really a band. Neil we were roommates, but I was in the downstairs area. No, I was in the upstairs area. He was in the downstairs area, and we would work completely alone. I don't think we ever did anything together. but then he would be happy with something he had done and throw it at me, and maybe I'd put something on it or not. And we combined it together. It was a beautiful friendship in that way.
What was the recording medium? How did you decide, or how were you able to recapture it and record it? What was the equipment?
I bumped into James Pinker on the street. We're quite friendly still here in New Zealand. He was the drummer at that time. And I said, oh, it must have been because we had the first Nagras, the digital tape recorders. He said, no, we didn't. It was all on a cassette. So
Ah,
the recording at the brickworks and various factories must have been done on a cheap mic and cassette. And then it's almost like we were in post-production from then on, putting it all through bass amps and a PA speaker rig and all the guitar effects we could find, and then re-recording it onto an 8-track recorder, if I remember rightly. I think I had an 8-track tape by then. That was it.
that's always my favorite thing, is to hear what your initial equipment was and how you got it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think that we'd all
Everybody was
discuss
like
that
that,
here.
weren't they?
Yeah, everyone loves that on this channel here too. It's just endlessly, well, what equipment, and endless gear talk. So if you want to get into any effects detail here, what sort of effects did you like, or that you could find?
Oh, I'm sure it was all distortion and the usual guitar pedals. That was all. Probably only about 4 of them. But we certainly didn't have as much electronics as you see all these everybody at Wroclaw and all those kind of places. Everybody's got a fair bit of analog equipment. We didn't have any of that.
Yeah, in the one picture, I think I can see a VCS3 that you have
Yeah,
somewhere. Was that
yeah.
it?
I used to borrow the EMS back in Australia,
Yeah,
and then when I went to England, that was my first purchase. So that was what I had from then on.
when you could still get one for a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah, exactly. And that one didn't come with a keyboard. That's why I liked it so much. And you had no choice.
Well, actually, you can get it with the Cricklewood keyboard. I actually got one with a keyboard, if you can believe it. It's
Oh,
still
wow.
crazy. Yeah. And luckily for less than $1,000. So sorry, people.
There'll be a run on them now, Kevin.
Yeah.
Anybody who owns
I,
one is sitting on gold.
and they know it. What was the essential ingredient to the music creation for that made you realize this is the path that I'm on, and this is the essential ingredient, and here we go? Was it the beating of a metal drum, or did it have some sort of basis in? Because I know that you're classically trained, and also in woodwinds as well. So it's just a huge diversity to draw upon when you're able to say, okay, now I'm going to take a look at this in a noise aspect, and the implementation of it is really interesting. It's not like anybody else, which I found to be always so diverse. Everything that you ever did, you could never say it was going to be the same as the last. It would always morph somehow into some way that was always quite unexpected.
To be quite prosaic, I think the essential ingredient is to surprise myself, and to have fun, really. It's that simple. It doesn't sound very clever, but at the end of the day, you have an emotional life to live, and this is a big part of it. As far as changing all the time, I get extremely bored very fast. I sort of live life with a fast forward button in my hand, and I need to be doing something different every 5 seconds. So that's a huge part of it. And but you have odd influences, don't you? I'm sure you do too. The only when people say, "Well, what was your major influence?" and I say, "Well, it was a German band called Neu."
Oh, of course.
But when I look back at it and I listen to it again just to see if I'd been lying all these years, and there's only one track I like, and what it is, it's drum and a bass. It might be a guitar, but I'm not sure. But it's being played recorded at 45 RPM, and it's being played back at, well, I think it might be 16. And so you've got this enormous sort of, it's just, this just ate into my brain, and I'm thinking, oh, I want to do that.
Did you first hear that in New Zealand or in Australia?
When I was at high school, I just despised pop music. So I would save all my money and travel to Melbourne, Australia every holidays, and where there was one German guy who had a record store in a railway station, Flinders Street, I think, in Melbourne. And I would just buy 100 records each time, whatever I could afford, lug them back. You know how heavy those damn things are too. And that's what I would buy, krautrock rock essentially, and some Italian and some French and a bit of English. But that's what I did from the age of about 15 on, I think. Yeah.
Wow. You didn't lose that collection, I hope, in the fire.
I had to leave it behind. You know, you come from New Zealand, you can't carry things with you. So I gave it all away at some point.
It's where. Do you mind me asking where you're at in New Zealand?
Auckland.
Auckland. I've always heard that New Zealand is like the ideal place on earth, like the place you want to be, especially right now in today's climate.
We're inundated, especially with people from the US trying to get here right now.
I can only imagine. But I did hear that like you can't move to New Zealand over the age of something like 35
Well, you
unless
can.
unless you're a native.
No, you can. You just
You
have to
can.
have
You
particular
just
skills.
got to have the connections.
No, just real, skills that we need,
Yeah,
like every country.
like anything. They need more industrial musicians.
Indeed.
I mean, it must have felt cool to. Well, I'm disappearing. It must have felt interesting to actually be, as they say, an official industrial artist on industrial, and to have the part of the single of the whole thing. What was it that made you say, "I need to go back to Australia"?
Um, I think it was because I wanted to reconnect with Neil, because he was never going to get to Europe. He said he was, but he was a part-time mental patient, a part-time orderly, so he was living on that line all the time, and is obsessed with Yukio Mishima, including the Harakiri bit, unfortunately. And he and his girlfriend committed mutual suicide, and I wasn't there when that happened, but I'm glad that I did get to work with him one more time in 1982.
That's
And
so
that's
sad.
why I went back.
It's something you never forget. I think is when you lose a close friend and band member.
Yeah,
I can absolutely relate to that because,
yeah.
of course, I've lost a couple myself.
So young too, Kevin.
Yeah, I lost my partner Dwayne. He was 31, but how old was
Neil would have been, oh, what was I, 50, 30? He would have been 27 or something.
the 27 Club? Oh my God.
Could have been. I'm not sure, but that
Yeah.
number. Yeah.
Well, that's so sad.
Yeah, it wasn't unexpected, sadly, but there was nothing anybody could do about it.
Was that something that you felt you could see coming?
Oh yes.
I guess that's the hardest part of sort of working within that realm.
These photos are great. I've never seen most of these. Fantastic. Hmm.
This, I guess, is from a performance in '82. Back, it was that would be back in Australia when you went
That,
back and met up again.
that was in Sydney. That's probably the only one of two we did in Sydney that year. Yeah, yeah. What is that though? That looks like it's projected onto a sheet.
It
But there
looks
weren't,
good. I like it.
but there weren't any projectors then.
Let's see here.
We must have
No
put
projectors.
No, there were no digital projectors back then, so you couldn't put video on a screen. That's why we used to cart two big televisions around and had one on each side. I think we were the first ones to have visual displays with our stuff, but I'm not sure about that.
I see a giant Roland here, but I can't tell what that is. That's usually I can tell what Roland gear that is right there. But you see this one? It says
Yeah,
Roland. I
I don't
don't know
know
what that is.
I don't know why we had it either, to be
It
honest.
looks kind of like is that like a guitar or something on top of a stand, and then a Roland's. It could be
Don't
in
know.
A Roland effects unit.
Maybe. Don't know. Don't remember it. Must have been Neil's.
Super cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I also thought that the first time that I ever saw you was on this alchemy video.
Oh yeah.
And so I think we're getting around 1983 now. And then when I saw this video and you guys had the fires and beating on the metal and stuff like that, I thought like, oh yeah, this is it. Like, I mean, honestly, I think you pretty much greatly inspired the Vancouver was kind of an out of the way city as well. There wasn't really a a reason for it to be there.
No, it wasn't. And no, you guys were real pioneers in your part of the world too. It was pretty much a European phenomenon, wasn't it? A little bit of in the USA, but not very much.
You had to be exposed by somebody, and then I was luckily exposed by my friend Bill, who's now had his band Frontline Assembly really successful for years. And he said, "Come over one night. I want to play you some stuff." And he just it just okay. The next day, I found myself throwing away almost all my records and rebuilding the collection, and then
No,
getting stuff.
it's a Frontline Assembly Canadian?
Yeah, also from Vancouver as well.
Did not know that. Apologies.
But we also shared a fondness for the Severed Heads.
Yeah.
And so right away, we had an affinity for what we were like. Wait, how's all this music coming out of Australia? And before we knew it, I don't know how it was, but somehow Tom and I came in contact, and he was brought over by Network way early in like 1985 or something, and did a show, and then that it led to him getting signed, and then us doing a 72 show world tour with the Severed Heads.
Oh my God.
And so it was like Tom and Stephen Jones,
Yeah.
and I think it was Pete Rivet Karnak as well. But Tom used to just speak all the time about the times that he was spent helping you out with certain things that you needed for your shows. And so when he saw that we were using stage blood, he was, "Oh, you're all a big pile of babies. Graham, use the real thing."
No, Tom was amazing. He because we were a little bit nomadic, we couldn't carry gear around the place, and I think Tom lent me his 8-track recorder to record Zamir Lemani on, I think. Anyway, he loaned it to me.
Wow.
He loaned it to me for quite some time, bless him. And he's a very, very nice, fun, and interesting character. I like him a lot. So we connected again over in Germany this year and had some very serious chats. Tom's quite serious.
I love that. I mean, I love Tom like a brother. After spending the amount of time I've spent with him, he he brings a smile upon my face, and I still love chatting and catching up and stuff. And what a genius, absolute genius in every respect about his capabilities and his production. I don't think if it wasn't for the us meeting Tom that we wouldn't have been as successful as we were.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's sweet to say that. That's nice. Yeah.
yeah. So and then
He taught me the power of generosity, I think, because as I say, it's pretty isolated. But when Leibach came to me and asked for a little bit of help, I had no problem doing the same. So it's cool.
the scene is small enough that everyone is on board with what everyone is doing. I just yeah, I really love that. But so you're back in Australia again, and Leichenschrei comes to reality. How is that recording different than making that recording different than making a recording in the UK?
Well, as I say, we didn't import any sounds from outside in the UK. It was all done in the bedroom of the squat. And then the whole thing about Leichenschrei really was bringing in all these different tape sources or percussion sources and treating it all a bit like you do now with plugins. Um, you take a fairly ordinary sound and make something really interesting out of it. So that was really the main difference. It was not easy to do it live though, because it did
Yeah,
involve a lot of pre-recorded stuff, which I never really liked at the time, but of course now it's you have to do it. So
kind of essential in some way. And as long as you're improvising on top, then yeah, who cares? Like if your
Yeah.
sound man's good, that should be the loudest element. What you're
Yes.
creating on top of maybe the backing track, or so to speak, could be your guide, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. But
What?
there's a complexity. I mean, there's, sometimes, very well, there's 30 instruments playing at the same time in the backing track, and there's three of you on stage or whatever, four. So it just can't be done live, and I suppose that's become a model for every genre, really, you know.
And the collective, as it says, was bigger for Leichenstrahl than the probably than the previous recording. I can imagine as well.
Yeah, no, only no. My brother had left by that point. He was Mr. Clean on IOU, and James Pinker came in. So no, it was just the three of us.
Oh, okay.
And then Dominic Guerin was he was on stage a couple of times, but he has a little visual, a little unusual visually. So he moved on to doing the visuals for the band. But he was not on stage after a couple of times in England.
There you go. In an '87 interview for Italian fanzine, Edward Caspell, legendary Pink Dot, stated that he thought industrial music should have stopped after Leichenstrahl, describing it as a brilliant album and nobody could make a darker, more definitive work in industrial music.
Well, I don't know. People are still doing really nice, really cool stuff. So. And
How,
the main thing is the music doesn't stand alone from the people who are doing it. I mean, it's a creativity thing, isn't it? People don't quite realize that they judge everything essentially just based on the product. And I think what our movement shows that it's so much more than the product, it's the process.
and as well, the time that you first hear something, you never forget. I think that's a really important
Yes.
thing because I can remember the place, the time, and how it affected me. And new, I'll have to say that I haven't heard anything new lately that has had a similar effect in the same manner. So when you look back on the whole world of where it came from, how do you see it? Do you have a different perspective on it now, in hindsight?
Well, I think there used to be ways. So when the world was still analog in the sense that you had record stores that you visited and you could encounter something by accident, or there was a radio show where that had a very wide appeal, like say John Peel in England, you could encounter things that you weren't expecting. The transition to the platforms and digital means that your playlists are likely to, and the damn algorithm's likely to target you with more of the same. So I think what's happened is that there is a very sad cutoff point demographically between the people who like this kind of stuff, and it's an aging population now, let's face it, and a whole lot of younger ones who don't ever encounter it because they're not in an analog world anymore.
Right.
And so that's a little bit sad, and that's part of what I've been trying to talk about very much is that there's a whole new there's a whole new epistemology. In other words, knowledge is gated by these few platforms, and it's almost like well, it is. Knowledge has become a form of rent. Unless you're a subscriber to the platform, you don't encounter knowledge in the same way anymore. So, that's a sort of a long-winded way of saying that I really would like, and I believe that there is a whole audience out there that would really enjoy the kind of extreme music that a lot of us enjoy, if only they would encounter it. So that's a bit of a mission of mine in a way with the Spectre.
That's great. I love how you always change the name of what S.P.K is. It's brilliant. So there is no official S.P.K definition then for those that are asking in the question on the side here.
Well, no, I mean, it's an homage to the original Sozialistisches Patientenkollektiv from Heidelberg in Germany. And people can look that up if they like. And Dr. Huber was the one that coined the phrases, kill for inner peace and one for mental health, and which the slogan lyrics, some of them, and sort of a rather simplistic critique of capitalism.
Right.
but we've gone on from there. But that is the original SPK. Yes.
Excellent. That's so many people are asking, and so that's an answer for us all. I also love the, of course, decompositions, almost like an offset or a part two of Leichenschrei.
Oh, is that? I didn't see it that way.
Nice,
But
nice, and how do you see it? What do you,
it was the first time I ever went into a proper studio, and so that I could do fairly simple music, but it could sound a lot better than I'd ever had it sounding before.
wow.
And it's also, in some ways, the titles are more important to me than the music, especially Another Dark Age, because even at that time, when was that? 83?
83.
Yeah. I didn't know, nobody knew the internet was coming, but I did really have a strong impression that we're not about to hit a wonderful information age, but a really dark age. And
Really? You could sense something coming.
that's what I don't know what it is. I think I'm a child of J.G. Ballard. I can see I can I can see the near future. And I always say I remember the future, but not the past. And yeah, I can see. I mean, that's what I'm immersed in now. We all know there's a massive change coming, but I think I can see the details of it.
What can you allude any of it to us?
Sure. Um, every technology, probably, you can think back to the invention of the printing press, say that's probably the real big one back in the day. Every technology is a small p political struggle between the people that are trying to use it for power and the artists and musicians and dreamers of the world who want to use it for the people, essentially. And so with the AI, this is an immense struggle we're entering right now. And it's a statistical struggle because the the AI transformer is essentially a giant sampler. And when it samples everything and it becomes a probability distribution, like a bell curve, right? All the crap that none of us really like is in the middle of the bell curve. And that's the thing that's most likely to get sampled when you enter something into, let's say, ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it is. We live on the way out on the extremes, and it's our job to make those extremes move towards the center. It's like this digital revolutionary struggle in a way. I really feel that. And we have to populate the distribution with much more interesting stuff, or the distribution just keeps getting more normalized, more and more normalized. It's a frightening future in that sense.
It is. I can't guess. We used to think you could be able to guess, but now I feel for myself, I just can't predict the next day here in America. It's just one of those things. Well, anything you could read about could happen the next day, pretty
Yeah, and
much.
then you look at it as perhaps a political uh, fascism. I'm going to call it what it is. But it's also, the buddy buddies that were all there at the inauguration. We know who they are, and they're the kind of people we are talking about. The oligarchs that are all in charge of the information, the knowledge economy, essentially. We don't own it anymore. They do.
Has there not been better proof that this is all a simulation?
I think life's always a simulation, but it's a simulation of somebody. I think it was Paul Eluard said there is another world, but it's in this one. And actually, there's lots of them. Each one of us has a different simulation. I don't really go for the matrix idea. I think that begs the question: who's in charge of that matrix? I don't
Right.
know. Nobody. It's just us. We all do it, and we have to stop ourselves doing it.
I'm jumping back here by saying you guys were very responsible in creating your own record label and controlling how you release things and taking control into your own hands. Side Effects Records. How important do you think that is for an artist to understand?
Well, we were very fortunate at that time and of course, Industrial Records was the precursor of what we did. That Rough Trade was a fabulous distribution network, and they were very happy to work with self-run labels. Um, Much harder to do that now, but in effect, everybody's become a label owner, haven't they? Um, it's kind of what you have to do. There is no choice. And a few of us, around 1984, the big labels got very excited about us and signed us briefly till they realized they couldn't sell any records.
I need to ask you a question about this. This is quite funny that went around in the industry. It was kind of a rumor, and it said that because we were, I guess, on Capitol or something, and we heard something that S.P.K had been signed as Australia's heaviest metal band.
It was, yes, it was so funny.
That is brilliant.
We did that one performance on the Tube of Metal Dance, and we had, a bit of flame and sparks and all that stuff going on. And it came to the attention of a fantastic young A&R guy called Michael Alago who worked for Elektra. I just reconnected with him. Amazing guy. He just signed Metallica. So
Unbelievable.
he took us to New York, where we went up to the penthouse of the St. James Club or some bullshit like that. And we sat in front of the boss of Elektra, who was lying on his bed. And he said, "You guys are great. We're putting you out on tour with Metallica."
Oh, that's what I did here. I didn't
Which,
think that
which in
part was true.
retrospect, which in retrospect we'd have been killed, but maybe we should have done just for the laugh. But the other thing, Kevin, was amazing. Motown was trying to sign us at the same time.
Oh my God.
It was such an insane. What universe do I live in?
Is that as a result of hearing Metal Dance or just the rumor?
No, it was, and it was like, what?
Because I remember when Metal Dance came out. Here, I happen to have my 12-inch here.
God,
I remember when it came out. I mean, it was a it was at the time when this music, this scene, I call the Wild Planet scene, as Dave Henderson used to call it, was starting to get played in the clubs more than you could ever imagine, especially in Vancouver. When this came along, this dominated the entire evening. So I know there
that
was a lot of hype
that and
behind the
Blue,
song.
you're lying. It was Blue Monday, but thank you.
No, you're right. Blue Monday was the one that was being played in a more commercial environment. But our clubs where we were hanging out, this and Portion Control, I think, had another song at the same time. But this was, a floor filler, as we would call it. And
Of course, I got vilified for doing that because my history was way more serious. So when I changed so radically to that, I became totally vilified. But in retrospect, it wasn't that far out of where the music was going towards, really.
I like
Eventually EBM did it so much better. But
I like how you kept it fresh in the sense that, well, is it possible that somewhere along the way a Fairlight came into the picture?
oh yeah, that was the only reason to do Metal Dance at all was it was a little bit, I'm going to say cynical, but it was very necessary because, as everybody knows, you don't make any money out of what we were doing. And my son was on the way, 84, and I just figured, how on earth am I going to feed my child? So I decided to do that thing, got a Fairlight and a house out of it, and
Fair deal.
provided for the family, got out of the deal within 1 year, and then got on with what I wanted to do with the Fairlight. So it was like a magic, really.
You can't really say that that wasn't the wrong decision
Hmm.
because, like, what would come along is probably one of my most favorite albums of all time,
Hmm.
Zamia Lamani.
Thank you.
And I think that is an absolute masterpiece. And I mean, many people will agree. Especially, I just loved reviewing and listening to it a couple nights ago. Even my wife was saying, "Oh my God, this is so good." I'm like, "Yeah, it really ages well and really is so good." So I guess warming up with some metal dance and stuff, and then really like honing in on the usage of the Fairlight in the way that is just it's brilliant. I mean,
Well, it was also to me there was I sat there thinking, okay, well, I've done the power electronics, I've done the metal percussion. I'm still very interested in noise. What is it about noise in my body and my brain? And it's this legacy of history, the traces that we carry, and the deep emotional resonances that we're often not really very aware of. Where did that come from? Maybe even thousands of years ago, So
Right.
to me, that was an expression, even though it doesn't sound like noise, it's still to me that's the noise that's in our body that we want to disambiguate in some way or to explore. And I'm not religious at all, hence the title's, invocation to secular heresies. And so this was, but it feels a bit religious in a way, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm quite proud of that one too, actually. And it certainly set me up for my later career.
Yeah. I mean, in the dying moments, like the groove of that is so still licensed, but like it's made some forward progressions that are just so beautiful, and it fits within the album. And sort of in flagrante delicto is
Well said.
even as a single would absolutely with its usage in Dead Calm. I loved how when Dead Calm came out and I was able to go see that, how well it was used and how effective it was. And that really must have been exciting for you as well, I can imagine.
It really was because the original title I had in my head for Zami Lemani was Music for Impossible Films, um, because I really wanted to go there, but I never thought I would be asked. And when in 1989, I guess we had finished performing, and 1988, I think it was, we finished performing. Um, I'm I had a publisher sort of, and he knew Philip Noyce, who was the director of Dead Calm. I think I was the third composer. They couldn't find anybody that could do anything original on the film. Philip wanted an electronic score. I wrote the electronic score. Took me 6 weeks. He loved it. The director, George Miller of Mad Max fame, the producer, I'm sorry, of Mad Max fame, he didn't like it. So he said, I want you to do something like Wagner's Tannhäuser opera. And I said, you've got a Fairlight, haven't you? I said, yes, it's 8 bits. And if you make three instruments at the same time, it sounds like a really awful Wurlitzer organ. Everything starts chorusing and it's horrible. So I did that for him for a little bit, and he said, you're right, it's horrible. And then I said, look, I have this piece of music I wrote, what was it, 4 years ago, 3 years ago? And it is what your movie's about. And he said, well, what's my movie about? And I said, well, it's a Stabat Mater, isn't it? And he says, what? And I said, well, it looks like a thriller with a psycho on a boat, but it's actually the she's lost her child in a car accident, and it's her lament, which is the same as Mary's lament for Christ on the cross. I remember him saying, oh my God, that is what the movie's about.
Brilliant, man. Good
So I
move.
so I realized fairly early on that if you can see what the archetypal core of a film is, you're much likely to get hired. And then we made the in flagrante work quite well for the film.
Oh, so well. And it was Nicole Kidman's first film, wasn't it?
She'd done a little one called BMX Bikers when she was a very young kid, but yes, essentially her first film.
Almost unrecognizable.
Well, yes, that's because she's a bit different now, isn't she?
Yeah. But it's great that, we've got her and she's also from Australia, and you've got a Fairlight
Yeah,
also from Australia.
perfect. And the
So it's
producer,
it's all coming together here.
yeah.
There's no chance in that. That's pure coordination from the external forces here.
And then I got called very shortly afterwards by an agent in California, and who I didn't really believe was an agent, but I checked him out and found out he was Jerry Goldsmith's agent and Danny Elfman. So I thought, oh well, okay, he's real. And then I didn't have a day off for about 25 years, including
Yeah.
including almost working with you. Damn.
Yeah, I know that was. I'll quickly recap that story. That was a very life changing moment for me, even though we didn't get to do that job together. But I was at the end of a very short period in my life where I was being very destructive, and I had come back to Vancouver in the midst of a riot. The city was rioting because they'd lost the hockey game. I mean, they're driving backwards on the streets and throwing bottles, and like it was absolute anarchy. And I came in and went into my apartment, and the people that had been living there, the bad influences, had moved out, and it miraculously looked like that whole episode of my life had never happened. And then at that exact moment, the phone rang, and it was you. And I was like, okay, that is a sign. Even though we didn't end up working, I actually, from that moment on, I've never looked backward. Let's put it that way. So I associate you in that day and that experience.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, well, the other part of the story is they it was a Canadian production with Keanu Reeves, directed by Robert Longo, isn't it? One of your stars, and they needed somebody Canadian. So I said, well, what about if I worked with a brilliant Canadian? I said, okay, but I don't know what happened. I sort of, it was an idea, and then I never heard anything again. I don't even know who did it eventually.
I think he did. Johnny Mnemonic came out, and yeah, people can go and check it out, even though we didn't end up working on it. But
Not the greatest film, is it?
yeah, I don't remember it being all that great. Certainly not as great as like so many films in your resume. I mean, my God, Graham, you have like really. I mean, if we just run over the list of your films, and maybe you can say which ones like affected you the most out of the 117 movies that you scored in between those times. I mean, I've seen so many of these, and so many are fantastic. I love Boxing Helena, and
No, that was that's crazy, wasn't it?
yeah, and Jennifer Lynch too. Yeah, The Crow, of course, the original. Did you ever meet Brandon Lee?
No,
No.
he had the sad thing happen, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably, you know what? I was on the job, but I did not meet him. No.
Yeah, it doesn't look like you ever took a day off, and I was kind of aware of that because I was friends with Gabor Supo, and I would meet up with him and Mark Mothersbaugh, and we would talk about how successful you were.
I remember Stuart Copeland called me up one day and said, "Could you please just turn down one movie so the rest of us have something to do?" But
Well, I
I
mean,
just love a challenge, Kevin. I mean, you can see there's so much crap in there, but
but
in
so
in
much
my
good too, though. Unbelievable movies in here. I can't even. We can. You can see. We can talk about any of this.
there's a few in there that nobody's ever seen. Like Human Nature is a really fun movie.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. Yeah, I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check out this list. But
That's
I.
Michel. Oh gosh, what's his name? Oh, French director that directed some of Bjork's videos.
Oh,
It'll
really?
it'll come
Okay.
to me later. Yeah, he's that was a wacky one. I
A
did this.
young man is in love with another woman, and all three have designs on a young man raised as a chimpanzee.
Yes, perfect.
Boy,
Well,
that fit.
I went back and this was why I had this advantage in Hollywood is like I could always come up with the most wacky thing in my presentations, and that one was cool because do you remember Incredibly Strange Music? Was it Vale that put those out? There were two CDs of Incredibly Strange Music, and one of them was that really odd 50s and 60s analog synth stuff that did for advertising. And I don't remember the name of the guy that used to do it. But I played this to Michel Gondry, was his name, and he just loved it. So the score is in that vein. It's really odd. So
Did
much fun.
any did any of these provide you with like when you see the title? Does it make you feel like, well, that's my best work, or is it what do you feel is your favorite work out of them all?
I think
If you had to pick one.
well, the one would be The Crow.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's something to be
I mean,
proud
that's
of course.
basically where I got to introduce the ideas of Zamir Lamani into film for the first time. Nobody had ever used uh, ethnic music and noise together And especially the ethnic music, you did not use an ethnic instrument unless you were either in the country where the ethnicity was, or you were looking at a character of that ethnicity. And to me, there's some of those instruments, especially Middle Eastern music, is so beautiful, so soul stirring that I thought, why is this not in fantasy? Why is this not in? And it provides a beautiful counterpoint to those, all those metal songs, essentially, which was the soundtrack. And there was another one where I could go and I could say, look, I hope you're not hiring me to do more of that because you've got plenty of that. What you
Right.
don't what you don't have is the emotional core of the film, especially since this is now a requiem for Brandon Lee. Um,
Absolutely.
and so they also said, well, okay, what can you do? And I said, well, for the first thing I need to do, I need to hire some strings because I hear this 3/4 string minuet, I suppose in a way it is. And they said, well, we have no money. And I said, okay, well, I'll pay for it. And so that was another reason I did the same with the whole Pitch Black Riddick series, just paid for the orchestra myself. And you have to make that kind of commitment if you believe in it.
That's awesome. That's so admirable to say, no, this is how it's going to be, and don't worry about it. I can do it.
And it pays off. I ended up doing 6 films with David Toohey, having helped make Pitch Black a really good movie, I think. So
How, if any, did you? I know you moved to. Well, you're in Calabasas at that point.
yeah, until the Cardassians moved in, I thought I better get out of it. I,
Classic.
we remember them all down at the mall before they all had their nose jobs.
Well,
Little 14 and 15-year-olds getting their noses done. Oh my Lord.
that's that's too funny.
Yeah.
Well, so I gather you must have brought the Fairlight, or did you upgrade? What was your setup generally for when you were sitting down to score a film?
No, I left the Fairlight. It was already obsolete by 1990 when I moved to USA. So my kids were going to a preschool there and they were always short of funds, so I just gave it to them. I donated it to them when I left. So either they sold it and made money, or it's still a kid's coffee table in a kindergarten. And so I had to, it was too bulky. It weighed about 1,000 million tons. So when I came to the States, I think I'd already moved into the in the box world. And and so all I had was an Ensoniq controller, and
Really?
all the rest was done in with various VSTs.
Were you using like the classic Vienna strings and that type of thing? The the typical film scoring computers that say I saw John Debney using and
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
was I was using Digital Performer, and then
yeah, right.
I probably had Viennese strings to begin with. They were terrible. I mean, you couldn't really use them in the final analysis, but I was fortunate that I did have a budget to go and record real orchestras around the world, but I fairly quickly learned that there were things orchestras didn't do well. For example, the percussion section is really boring in an orchestra. And the low end people can't play strict time. So trombones are always a little bit late. Um,
Wow.
Low strings playing marcatos. This is the LA orchestras are okay, but low strings playing marcati, I suppose. Dum, dum, da, 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 dum, 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 that kind of stuff. They all sound like a herd of sheep that's not quite in time. I really learned early on that, okay, let's keep those out of the box because there's not that much difference. But the upper strings I would go and record everywhere because you still can, well, you sort of can do a good job now, but not then, that's for sure. So that used to speed up and make the outside recordings a lot cheaper.
Wow, that's incredible. But I know that a lot of times when they work on movies that have a fairly decent budget, you'll do your composition and your world and digital performer, and then they'll take that out and feed it out to the conductor, and the conductor will then record the orchestra. Was it something was that something that you typically did, or you as you said kept control of it by hiring the performers?
Oh, that's something I typically did. But I learned early on, I'm a little bit of a fairly quick learner, but I did make some mistakes. I was asked to do the movie The Piano, which won
Oh
Oscars.
my God, great film.
And when I went to the meeting, Jane Campion, the director, asked me, was I a good piano player? And foolishly, I said, no, not really, but of course I can hire the best. And then she gave the job to Michael Nyman, who did an incredible job,
Right.
really, probably better than I would have done, I have to admit.
He didn't
And
do a bad job, that's for sure.
he did not do, you know. And
No.
anyway, then when I went to America, I had learned that little lesson, and they said on Child's Play 2, have you ever worked with a 100-piece orchestra? And I said, of course I have. But if it hadn't been for the ability to do mock-ups, really, really, really bad mock-ups, you're talking about using a 1 megabyte Atari. That was the computer at the time. Um, and a printout of a cue took all night. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh my God.
And so, but if I hadn't been able to do even a basic mock-up, I would not have been confident that what I was writing was any good. So by the time I got to the stage and the 100 pieces in front of me, I was somewhat confident. But first time around, they played the opening cue of Child's Play 2, which is actually quite complex because there's a lot of atonal orchestra playing in it. And it was just rubbish. And I remember putting my head in my hands thinking, that was a short career.
Oh no. Do you
And
still
then
feel that way about it?
and then the conductor, who was also the orchestrator, Shirley Walker, who orchestrated for Dan Elfman as well. She was one of those women that should have been in the forefront, but never got there because she was a woman, I think. Very sad. And she got quite bitter about it, quite reasonably too. Anyway, she called the cue again, and lo and behold, the cue was perfect second time round.
Oh, good.
And my little head came up, and I thought, oh, okay. Just got to
Wow. I
you
mean,
have to get them one rehearsal. That's all, So
is that all it was, really, you think? Just
it
one
was,
time through? Yeah.
but they are amazing. I mean, those professional players, they play anything at sight. But this was a bit more complicated, so they messed up the first time.
There's nothing like sitting in the room when those guys are all going.
Amazing.
Just nothing like it. But you're playing. I mean, absolutely. I guess in some weird way, you're playing like your flute. Is that your flute in Alacasia Metallica? And Sinan, is that her voice? You guys were recording these type of things, or are they
That's
just purely
that's her
sounds?
voice. It's not her voice on In Flagrante Delicto. That was a real alto opera singer that I met in Sydney. But it's Sanan's voice on all the rest. Yeah. No, it's me playing flute. I can play a rudimentary flute. It's like
Like the
nothing.
choral and string in Necropolis and the Garden of Earthly Delights. I mean,
That's all played. Yeah. But
that's the
it's very,
Fairlight,
yeah, it's very simple there, Kevin. It's not anybody could do it.
but beautiful. It's touching. It's
Yeah.
the Doctrine of Eternal Ice. I think that that certainly inspired an album that I get a lot of
Mhm.
talk about called Doubting Thomas that I made somewhere around '89 with my partner, and that was certainly in the back of my mind. I know that for sure.
One of the things I'm really pleased about is Dead Can Dance up until the point where I released that on single. Dead Can Dance had been, being in the 4AD fold with that Mystère des Voix Bulgaires that came out and was a sensation across the world, really. And Lisa Gerard was sort of doing that for a while, like a Bulgarian or Eastern European singing. But then I think when she heard, I may be wrong about this. Maybe she thought the idea on her own, but the timing is anyway. She sort of changed to more classical, and fabulous records she's put out ever since. And Dead Can Dance. I mean, that's one of my favorite periods of indie music, actually. Cocteau Twins, Dead Can Dance.
Absolutely.
This Mortal Coil,
Yeah.
beautiful.
So in 2023, Willy's Wonderland comic series fan dub. Was that your I see that you did Tiffany and Chucky in 2019. What was it that made you say enough is enough for this right now?
I did not do those, Kevin. That they sometimes put them on IMDb if they've just licensed some of my music
Oh,
from.
okay.
So I think that Tiffany and Chucky is just a license from uh what's the one with a Bride of Chucky. Yeah.
Bride of Chucky.
Which was really fun, that one, because it finally had stopped being just a slasher movie and turned into a romantic comedy. Fantastic. Makes it easier to write music when there's something a little bit more fun. But the answer to your question is, to be honest, and I think I can reveal this now, I was pretty bored by about 2001 or two.
Wow, that's quite a while to continue.
Yeah, and then I had a few commitments after that, like David Tui's work, and then Gotham came along, and I was very friendly with Danny Cannon, the director of that. So I would honor commitments based on whether I was friendly with the person or not. I didn't really run around seeking anything else. And I think the last one I did really was 2012. It's probably Riddick, which
Oh, okay, yeah, I think I saw that.
that was really the last one I did, and that was a little bit of a sign of a franchise that now didn't have enough money to do what the director wanted to do, you know. And after that, really came back to New Zealand to look after my mother, who was the instigator of my whole music life, and then sort of transitioned into becoming a researcher and writer in AI after that.
It's a full plate that always put on yourself now with a new book that has just been released. Can you talk a little bit about? It's released in two languages too. Did you finally learn French?
No, I knew French. When I lived there
I thought you said you didn't think you felt you spoke good French.
I didn't speak it, but I read and write it really quite well.
Oh, excellent. That's a feat in itself.
Well, yeah, it was funny actually. What happened was that I taught myself French by reading philosophy. So I'd sit in libraries all day for a year and read philosophy, but I was unable to carry out a normal conversation like you'd have in a bread shop without using words with about 8 syllables in them. So I was quite a party piece. People would ask me, a really simple question like, "What did you think of that loaf of bread?" And I would launch into some, um, you know, Heideggerian thing about Dasein or something like that. But I couldn't speak anything usefully colloquial. But yeah, I did the French translation with the help of ChatGPT.
That that is great. Can you tell us something about what the book is about? The ineffable geometry of light.
Yes. So it's a braided novel, a story of two different time periods that intersect. And it's about what Bachelard called epistemological breaks. So sometimes in history, something happens that's so momentous that epistemology or knowledge completely changes. And I believe it even changes the perception, the way we perceive. I don't think our perceptions are a given. I think they're informed by art, they're informed by what we're thinking about. Um, and the previous one, which very much relates to my country, was when Darwin's Origin of the Species came out. And suddenly the entire apprehension of the world changed from somehow God was in charge to, ooh, intentionality just left the universe. And this was a major upheaval in people's minds. Um, and there was sorry, I've got an oven thing happening. Good, thank you. Um, and so this young man, 24 years old, had just come to New Zealand from England. He was a sheep farmer living way up in the mountains, completely isolated. And he bought this book, Darwin, Origin of the Species. But he was such an interesting guy. He was gay and also had a thing called chiasmus, which I have. And that is that the first thing he wrote in his diary was that the minute I saw the mountains, I longed to be on the other side of them. So it's that, and everything that he thought was like that. He lived in a liminal space, right on the boundary, not quite sure which way he should go, or going in both directions, actually. Anyway, so the minute he read The Origin of the Species, he said, well, that's cool, but why would man be the end of evolution? And he already reasoned that the telegraph had just been invented, communication at a distance. He said, well, obviously machines is the next step in evolution. So it wasn't just the idea of machine as tool, it was the idea of machine as evolutionary phenomenon. And I feel we're right on the threshold of another one right now.
Wow.
where we won't even perceive what's coming into our head in the same way as we do now. People don't realize that. They think, oh, this is just this thing that you go into a computer and you do. But once we become more and more of a cyborg with this machine, with this knowledge base, I think we change beyond recognition. And that's what the book's about, really. It's essentially like a 5 years of reading and cognitive science and so on, distilled into a novel with real characters, and it's a love story and it's a journey. Hopefully, it's a lot easier to read in that context than pouring through very, very dry papers. Kind of feel like I've done the work for everybody.
That's not your first book, though, is it?
First novel, yeah.
Yeah, first novel. But you've written other books.
Only a lot of papers, but only the only other book I've put out is the Neuron Mirror, which is
Yeah, that's what
I started in 2020 during COVID. I was a red tester for GPT-2. So I started to put beautiful poetry into GPT-2, and the results were really interesting. There was a lot of hallucination going on, but about 1 out of every 11 responses was actually very poetic and very, dare I say, human. And it gave me a window. So then I put those responses into the early visual generators. So I don't do what you do prompt now, give me a picture of a Alaskan Inuit in a space capsule or something like that, which you would do now, right, to get some sort of surrealist thing. I would put the response from the transformer into these visual things and see what happens. So there's sort of a double poetic opportunity for a hallucination, as they call it now. And in my opinion, what's happened since then, I'll give you the perfect example. People might have heard it, but it's important. So there's an Emerson poem, which is very famous, called Two Roads Diverged in the Woods, and I took the one less traveled by. Now, we all know what that indicates, is experimenting, independent thinking. When I put that into GPT-2, it came back with two roads diverged in the woods, and I went down the one to die as you came up the other, which is beautiful, you know,
It is, but it's completely different.
completely different. And you go, okay, well, it's an accident, sort of. But what was very interesting was that it gave at that time, I'll just say one more thing. Now, if you put that phrase into ChatGPT, all you get's the next line. It knows too much, right? But
Right.
I don't think that's intelligence. I think that's a search engine. I think intelligence is where when you don't know something, you come up with a creative solution for it, right? That's why I say the earlier transformers were a bit more human than they are now. And I think there will be a steampunk movement at some point, which will go back to that. And it'll have very interesting consequences. However, I'm just going to tell you how it made that decision. So what it did was it took the word roads and it immediately thought of shortest path algorithm for some reason. And it gave this attribution, George Danzig, 1950, The Road Less Traveled. And I thought, oh, I don't know that book. I
Right.
look up, it doesn't exist. And so I thought, okay, well, what's this George Danzig? Look him up. He's the father of linear programming and the shortest path algorithm. And so he's just the transformer just took the word road and came up with shortest path algorithm. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how did it get to that poetic thing? And then I thought, independently, because of the way we are, I thought, well, what about the American band Danzig? And I thought, so that there's only one difference. One's got a T, the other one, Danzig, the band doesn't. And their famous song is Going Down to Die. And I thought, oh, that's fantastic. That's how it got there. Isn't
That
that
is that
isn't that
is
brilliant?
that is so unreal.
But that's how we think.
But the fact that
That's
you could also
actually how
figure that
we
out
work.
is brilliant.
Well, but that's the sort of thing. You have this odd knowledge base, and we make these connections that a probability distribution doesn't make very often because it's looking at the nearest neighbor. Whereas we creatives are always looking at the furthest neighbor often. you know.
Right.
So this is an indication of how how truly creative AI could be once we get it into our hands and out of. It'll be in the fine tuning universe, which is taking the LLMs, getting rid of the boring part of the database, and just using what we want, thereby modeling our own internal databases. And there will be a Cambrian explosion of these things very shortly.
It
That's
should be
the
a tuner that tunes outside the fringe, just tune outside there and sort of like tuning in between radio stations to get
yes,
your information a little bit.
that's a good metaphor.
That's
Yeah,
my desired result I would like. Yes.
that's the Cambrian explosion that we're probably a year or two away from. I'm so excited about it too.
Was there some concept that had been discussed that you were planning on performing or taking this concept further into a live
Yeah, no,
concert?
it will be quite AI in some ways. It's going to be this sort of real mixture. My son's a metalcore uh, fan, and which I really like. People don't know this about me, but I just like so many different genres that other people, yeah, I can't admit it, but I do.
Oh, you
Fuck
can.
it, fuck it, I'm admitting it.
I
Anyway,
mean,
so we're going to have all these different influences, analog and digital and AI. But I'm really hoping the AI will be, push the boat out further than normal.
has
And
Robert ever?
it won't be writing the music, by the way. Never. I won't do
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. No. Never. Never. I fully on page with that too. Has Robert ever heard of Portal? There's a band from down there. I think probably one of the most metalcore. I don't know if it's metalcore. It's
really.
one of the heaviest bands I've ever heard. Portal.
He lives in LA, so he probably
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
know.
Okay. He probably doesn't know.
But I did mention another band called Ulcerate. I don't know if you know them.
I need to look. I'll look him up.
Look that up. The best drummer the world has ever known, in my
Oh
opinion.
yeah.
Jamie St. Clair, I think his name is.
And where are they from?
They're from New Zealand. And it's just I listen over and over and over to it. He's a genius.
Any other recommendations on new things that you've heard or visual that you'd like to recommend?
Um, Sort of trying to keep a couple of things a bit secret at the moment until I start working with these people. But I am going to work with other people because
Nice.
one good thing about getting old is you do realize there are certain things that you're not the greatest at. We all thought we could do everything, right? But somehow humility kicks in at some point. So there's some visual people, but the tech that I'm going to introduce is quite unique. So I'm very excited about that.
As well as S.P.K. Spectre.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's going to be, I heard, 2026 plans
I
with
do hope
Robert.
I do hope so. It's a little bit tricky because I'd like to play at some of the bigger festivals, somewhere down the bill, obviously. But the problem is that you got to have the music to get the gig, and there's a lot of big time lag. So I just have to get my ass into gear and decide what the music actually is going to be because it's rattling around in my head at the moment. But that's about it.
I'm sure you'll come up with it. I am confident. It's somewhere in between everything, but maybe not. Maybe,
That's right. It's the bit where the shortwave radio is being tuned. Yeah, that bit.
absolutely.
It's
Well,
fun.
I think there's a couple questions here, if you don't mind taking from
Sure.
people, if that's all right. Let me just quickly address that. Biggest question is the original story. What influences existed to trigger such a harsh response as S.P.K in the 70s? It seems crazy to think just as someone wrote the first rap song, someone wrote the first industrial song. Who is it that remains unclear, but chronologically, S.P.K is one of the originators, along with Murs Both, Robin Gristle, and slightly later Neubauten. I guess the
Um,
question is, yeah.
well, I suppose if you look at the what I disclosed before about the rhythm track of noise that being very important to me, I rhythm was very important to me, and you don't find that in those other bands you mentioned, Neubauten later, but not Merzbow and not TG really. My son just heard TG recently, before we did the show in Germany, and he said I'd never listened to this. They were really ambient, weren't they?
Oh,
And I said, well, comparatively, yes, but
the new version, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Well, even early on, there was it was very moody and doomy and wonderful, but it wasn't really rhythm driven like S.P.K was. And at that time, also that we were coming off a period of certain fairly low BPMs, and I just decided I really wanted to go at like 170 plus, which is what Slogan is. It starts off about 170 and speeds up to 210, I think. So and that really was it. I just wanted the ultimate excitement. I love a good old noise.
I'm so happy to hear that. It almost seems like there could be a full circle event happening now.
Yeah, yes, it is. It is.
That's
I feel like the because of all the expected soundscapes that in the group of people that we have always been part of, um, nobody's breaking out of the mold very much, I have to say. Um,
it's it's kind of like the punk movement. It's like somebody's just did so well at the beginning of like opening that portal that basically that it's hard to keep on being that fresh. I Because the thing I loved about it is that fresh didn't mean well made. It just meant it had an impact upon you in some manner, even if it was recorded on cassette or wherever it might have come from. And that's something I'm excited about. I'd like to see a return to that, that way of thinking again, if it was possible.
I think it is. I think it is. It just takes somebody to start a little new idea, and then everybody explores it, and sometimes does better, and that's fine. As you say, it's not necessarily about the quality of the recording, but you've been like that, Kevin. You've been really, really adventurous in all the things that you've done. Love your work with the Tear Garden. Really looking forward to the new album. I was listening to some
Oh, thank
back
you. You're
last
sweet.
night. They're beautiful.
So sweet, man.
Hey,
Appreciate
there's
it.
one little story I will tell. I know we're in question time, but I actually got before I knew that Tear Garden was your band, I had a script greenlit at Disney called The Tear Garden. And it was the story of a comedy version of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest from my period at the mental asylum. And it was greenlit at Disney before the president got fired the next week, so that was short-lived. But
Oh, wow.
I
Sad.
remember thinking, how am I going to talk Kevin into letting me use that name?
No problem. You'd have it instantly. Edward and I had have nothing but love for you.
Isn't that funny though? We both had sort of the same name independently. Anyway,
That's
it's a good
that's
name.
that's classic.
Mhm.
Matthew says, I remember seeing The Crow upon its release in '94 and rushing out to a music store the next day to buy the original score. As a 19-year-old, I had recently purchased my first synth because I wanted to sound like Kevin Key. I found the Crow soundtrack to be incredibly inspirational. Thank you, Graham. Oh, I guess there isn't a question on that one.
Oh, you're
Uh,
very welcome. It was a great opportunity, that's for sure.
Russ says, Graham, I'm going to gush for a bit, but I can't help it. I saw some footage from the show in Italy this year, and it was stunning. You and Robert presented one of the best artistic responses to our present cultural movement that I'm aware of. I'm glad, and in a way, relieved to see SPK back for times as disorienting and as horrifying as these. And it's great to hear that you'll be touring again next year. Do you have any intentions of releasing an album as SPK TR, or do you see what you're doing as being best suited for live performance with video?
I think what we'll do, thank you for the lovely comments, because I don't know if Kevin's the same, but I'm fairly typical of most artists in that I suffer extreme shame the minute I do something. Um,
No,
no,
what?
seriously, like actual shame that was shit, that was not good enough. In fact, I tried to pull it off the VOD box set, but Frank blackmailed me by saying that he wouldn't release anybody's work unless I was on it. So the prick, I rolled over real fast because I'm not going to disappoint everybody.
Wow,
And
that's great.
I love Frank, by the way. He's a prick, though. Anyway, so yes, we'll be doing an album, but in some ways, I wonder if because people send me their albums, and I feel very guilty because I neither have a vinyl playing thing, nor do I have. That's why they were called a turntable, weren't they? Blank there, or a CD player. So I wonder if what I'd like to do, maybe everybody should do this now that I'm saying it. Does anybody yet put out projects on flash drives so that they're a beautiful little box with flash drives with the music and the video on them?
Very few.
Very few,
Yeah.
and I don't know if there's any. I'd love to know from anybody actually, if there's any way of protecting that, so you only get like
Right.
one use, so you can't just share it with somebody.
Extremely good question there. I can't
Mhm.
answer, say I know the answer to
It's very
that.
important for all of us, we still have to try and make a living from what we do.
Yeah. Copy
Spotify,
protected.
Spotify sucks, so we don't want to go on there anymore.
I did see an idea that was presented the other day that was like a credit card that actually has this thing that you turn on it, and it actually has a little USB, or if you flip it the other way, it's like the other USB-C, and it contains all the information on the credit card. It's
Oh
kind
yeah,
of kind of like that, but
it's in the computer. The point is can you just copy it? Then
yeah,
that's
I guess it would be. Well, actually, I didn't determine whether it was a play only thing or whether it was copyable, but yeah, the future is
but I
upon
believe
us.
I believe that's actually the future because we're all doing videos and it's all very much a part of what we do. Um, Quite a lot of this material I did at Pordenone was and VOD was more sort of more in the soundtrack world, didn't have any heavy rhythms or anything. And it's better if you're watching the video at the same time. So that's what I would like to do next year. Yeah.
Nice. I'm sure everybody is excited about that, and just had to play that.
One of those two is playing in time. That's not me.
But the thing is, the feeling is there. The S.P.K world that we all love is there, and that
That
as soon as
video,
I
that
saw
video,
that,
that video is pretty cool, actually. It's one of the more successful AI videos I did. It looks like the most amazing concert you've ever been to.
oh, you mean this isn't real?
In the background,
Oh, in the background.
apparently it's still taboo to show not people hear it.
Oh, absolutely.
Even when you're making a clear connection with USA,
Yeah, I think it is, and I think that especially with what we're dealing with now in America, it kind of is like the type of thing where it's not so much taboo; it's just sort of it's making a point, and then the point is that it's all coming back, and we're all being witness to it, and a lot of people may have a lot of opinions on it, but I think it's not something that's tucked away under, tucked well away. No, it's in our faces these days. So
I swear they've got the playbook on their bedside tables and they're going one by one. They did with that alleged ear shooting. They did that one, the attempted assassination, and then now they're doing the brown shirts, and it's like, my God, guys, it's so obvious.
it is, and it's. I'm glad I'm kind of like in my mid 60s that if I was like young, I would be a little bit more. I don't know if I would be more terrified, but I would to think your world is churning. That's how it feels here. Is the world's turning into a really bad place, and what can a younger person do these days to even speak up? Because now speaking up and protesting is kind of like limited to the way they see you.
Very, very, very. I
It's
think we
weird.
both, the people in Portland are doing a great job, by the way. They're
Yeah,
doing,
with the
it's like,
frogs,
yeah, when you can't, and they can't say, "Oh, evil Antifa," because there is no evil Antifa. It's
there
just
isn't.
people in inflatable costumes, and they're Antifa, but there's no such thing as Antifa anyway, as an organization. So they're doing a great job.
By the way, Penelope Courtney from VOD sent me some pictures. I guess it's also from your very first show in Australia. or one of your first shows, or maybe this is the '82 one again.
The 82 one.
Yeah, '82. Okay, I see the roll in there again.
Yeah, the personnel in the 78 or 79 ones are different. We had a guitarist and a drummer and a bass player because Neil's influence was a lot more then with the punk, you know.
I love the faces.
Yes. They're real one. They're real too. We broke into the medical museum at Sydney University and it's all just there in vats, you know.
So you're saying that you performed the show b- by breaking into it?
Oh no, this not this show, but all the visuals
Oh, I see the visuals.
were taken. We just walked in there one day. There was no security or anything like that, and pulled all the bodies out of the what do they put it in? Formaldehyde or whatever it is. And
And with severed heads.
yeah, yeah. Wow.
Our first gig that we ever did, we broke into an art gallery and put a show on there without the people being there.
Amazing, isn't it? Oh, those were the days.
Kind of punk rock.
Yeah.
Surgical penis clinic with Fetus Productions at the Brickworks.
I don't remember Fetus being there, but I guess they were.
Can you imagine?
Cool. Yeah. That's a different band. That's not Jim Fetus.
Okay, that's a different one.
It's an Australian group that James Pinker was part of. Yeah.
I get it. So have you ever?
Somebody allegedly jumped from a tower in that show.
Oh wow.
I know the ambulances arrived, but I thought it was just somebody had drunk too much, but apparently they jumped off the tower.
So last question: have you ever thought about performing your musical works live in the way that recently there's been concepts of many of the artists being able to somehow perform segments of like Danny Elfman basically did a show. It was basically all segments from Night Before Christmas, and just it actually worked out way better than I ever thought it could.
No, those are good shows. And of course, Zimmer tours around the world with his as well, but occasionally. But no, I don't think I want to do that. And I also don't think that my works are popular enough worldwide to get much of an audience, Kevin. So no, I don't think so.
Okay, that I'd be there.
It's not just plus it's just not just orchestral music, is it? I mean, the best thing about me is that orchestra is only part of it. So I would have to have this really quite broad. There'd have to be a lot of other people involved.
There was with Danny Elfman, man, he had quite a killer
Okay.
band. Yeah,
Oh,
I was. I mean, I was way more impressed than I thought I would be. So I'm just saying that it might be interesting. And when they show the film behind, I think Goblin has been doing that for years as well.
yeah, they have, yeah. No, I don't think so. Not something I really fancy. Don't think.
Last thing, I see that you're still quite active. Is that you're doing like mega hikes or
Chevy
something?
makes America's most dependable trucks.
That was a while back.
Oh, what's that? Some
Because
sort of
it's a Chevy
ad
truck.
coming from somewhere.
Dependability comes.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
God, mysterious ad. Sorry about that.
No, that is a trek I did quite some time ago. Early sports injury in my leg has killed that now, sadly. But I mean, I could start, but I probably wouldn't finish a trek like that. And but that was the trek I did, which is starts off on the west coast of New Zealand, goes up through the bush, really the native bush, out onto the top of the Southern Alps, up there, and then down the other. You see down the other side the vast braided river going down the other side. That's the trajectory, and it goes to Samuel Butler's, who was the young 24-year-old. It goes to his ex-farm, sort of a pilgrimage, really, and it was called Mesopotamia. And it's quite dangerous, actually,
It looks,
especially especially when
doesn't
the
look easy.
river's in flood like that. And the river's very often in flood, and it happens super fast because what happens is a tarn or a mountain lake up in the high ends will suddenly break, and it all comes down really
Oh
fast.
no!
You hear it, and you've got about 15 seconds before
Wow!
before it comes around the corner.
You have to keep your ears open.
There's one of them, the one where I'm running up the hill there. That was so I was down on that rock, and then suddenly, boom!
Oh,
It
look at that! Yeah,
went from a trickle to that, and it went over that rock eventually. So
it's incredible.
But yeah, then
I've lost my
my
camera.
idea was that, I just wanted to be, there was one other person with me, but wanted to be more or less alone. And the book, in a way, is like, what's the conversation I would like to have for 4 days? And that's kind of what it is.
Where can people order the book if they want to go order it right now?
On Amazon.com, or if you hate Amazon, it's also on Kobo.
Got
And
that, people?
it's in paperback and also digital. Super cheap. I tried to make it as cheap as possible.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to go order one right now, and
Cool.
I hope you have a wonderful Monday there. I know it's the next day already there, and I just want to thank you so much, Graeme. I have huge respect for your career and everything you've ever done, the way you think, the way you move. I have just ultimate respect to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Kevin. You too. Same. I feel the same about you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, really, always something new and surprising. That's what I love.
Well, that's following your influence, so I appreciate that very much.
Cool.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. Have a
Thanks.
great day, and all the best to your family and to New Zealand.
Thank you. Well, I can confirm to everybody there that there is a tomorrow, because I'm already living in it. So you don't worry, at least for tonight.
Okay, seems like it will happen then. Tomorrow will happen, people. Graeme, thank you again, and thank you, Patreon people, for your support. And talk to you soon. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. See ya. Thanks, everybody.